meetings this evening. The first is the Curative amendment agreed for the Wrigley LLC 400 Prairie Highway, and then we'll adjourn that meeting and go into our monthly Board of Supervisors meeting. So with that said, I'll make a motion to, for all of them, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'll make a motion to start the hearing for the landowner curative amendment filed by Wrigley 19 LLC, 400 Prairie Highway, to amend the Lancaster Township zoning ordinance 89, section 300-20E10.
I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. With that, we'll turn it over to Solicitor Michelle.
Thank you. Can I ask that any individuals who plan to speak this evening stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in?
Thank you. Do you all swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Wait a second. Can you put that? Wait, give me 1 second, please. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Can I say something just to everybody who's testifying, everything, we try to be as silent as possible, because it's very difficult for us to hear here. And taking minutes and everything is very difficult to hear, so in order to make sure that everything's accurate and consistent, we would ask it to be as quiet as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. As the chairman indicated, we are here today to hold a public hearing pursuant to the municipality's planning code in regard to a request by an applicant on a curative amendment on our zoning ordinance. That applicant is Wrigley 19 LLC and Harold Wrigley. Just to let everyone know sort of how it's going to go tonight, the applicant is going to do a presentation. Again, only one person can speak at a time because the court reporter is going to take down everything. So if you have something to say, there is going to be a time at the end of the meeting for public comments and or questions. After the applicant speaks and offers exhibits, the township will speak and offer exhibits. There will be questions first by the Board of Supervisors, the engineer and staff, and then the public will have an opportunity to speak. So at this point, again, just to reiterate what staff indicated, it is very difficult when multiple people are talking for our lovely court reporter to take accurate notes. And as you will hear at the end, and I'm going to explain at the end of the public hearing the next step. And it's very important for, to be able to take accurate testimony, because we are going to then rely on that for the Board of Supervisors to make a decision. So with that being said, I'd like to ask Mr. Graham and the applicant to begin their presentation.
Thank you. During the course of our presentation tonight, we're going to be presenting several exhibits. I've provided a copy of those exhibits for each of the supervisors, for staff, for the solicitor, and for the court reporter. I think most of the people here know me by now, since we've been through this a few times. My name is Don Graham, and I represent Wrigley 19 LLC and Dr. Harold Wrigley, who are the applicants in this petition. So the first exhibit we have is the petition for curative amendment we filed in this case. There are two parts to a curative amendment, as I've told the board before. The first part of a curative amendment is to determine whether in fact the ordinance is defective as alleged in our petition. And the second part of it is if the township finds that there's a defect in the ordinance, they have a right to either approve our proposed curative amendment without revisions or with revisions, or they can opt to adopt a separate ordinance or an alternative amendment to the ordinance that fixed the defects. So we've alleged two grounds on which we think that the ordinance is defective. first ground is what's called a de facto exclusion. And just so that everyone understands, there are two kinds of exclusionary zoning, de facto and de jure. De jure means as a matter of law, something's excluded. So if we were saying your ordinance does not allow townhouses anywhere, that would be a de jure exclusion. We are not alleging that. We're alleging a de facto exclusion, which means that based on the way the ordinance is drafted, it in fact excludes townhouses as a permitted and legally viable use in your township. And the second point we have is that the standards established in the ordinance are excessive and therefore unreasonable. So what are the specific defects that we've alleged? So the first defect that we've alleged is that the minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet for a townhouse is excessive and operates to exclude the zone. If you look at Exhibit 2 in your packet, So Exhibit 2 we have in our packet, we actually drew a plan and we put 20,000 square foot lots in it. So this plan shows what that plan would look like. It would essentially be two cul-de-sac streets. On those two cul-de-sac streets, one of them you can get 30 townhouses and the other you can get 4. You can get 34 townhouses in total. But I think you can see the absurdity of having a lot for a townhouse that runs back 1,000 feet, which is what it would take with a 20-foot wide townhouse to have a 20,000 square foot lot. The result of this is that you can get a density of 0.88 units per acre, which is less than 1 unit per acre, is all you can get by laying out a plan that complies with your ordinance. We could theoretically go to a wider townhouse unit, like a 24-foot wide townhouse, that would only require the lot to be 833 feet deep. But if you do that, you're going to have less than the 34 lots that are laid out on this plan. It would actually end up with less. So the first reason we say that the ordinance is invalid is that 20,000 square feet minimum lot size for a townhouse lot is de facto exclusionary and unreasonable. The second one is the side yard setback. The ordinance requires a 15-foot side yard setback. You cannot have a side yard setback on the party walls in a townhouse building. It's impossible. The walls butt against each other, the property line runs through the middle of those walls. So it's impossible to have a 15-foot side yard setback on interior lots like your ordinance requires. Once again, the effect of that is to exclude the ability to do a townhouse in your community. The next one is the front yard setback. The 40-foot setback we think is excessive. The 40-foot setback, all that it does in a townhouse community where most townhouse communities have a large number of front-loaded units, it just forces driveways to be longer and utilities to be longer and forces the expense of building the townhouses to go up. It serves no useful purpose. Normally a setback is to create some green space around something. You can't create green space on townhouses because they're going to front load for the most part, like we have here. So one of the justifications for looking at what a setback would be is parking of vehicles in the front. Well, your ordinance parking lot standard is a 10-foot by 20-foot parking space. So if we're talking about a parking space, your own parking lot standards or parking space standards only require 20 feet. We have proposed in our cure to go 25 feet. Now, why did we go 25 feet? We went 25 feet because people talked about the extended cab pickup trucks and SUVs and the length of those vehicles. So we went and we looked at the standards or the largest of those vehicles. The largest of those vehicles would be a GMC Sierra HD, a Ford Super Duty, a Chevrolet Silverado HD. The longest of those is 266 inches or 22 feet, 0.16 inches. So we have proposed in our Cure 25 feet for the front yard setback that would allow the largest of those vehicles to park in front of a garage, outside of the garage, and that would put it outside of the right-of-way for the road, which means it would be behind the sidewalk under your ordinance standards. So, just a little bit of background about the property. It's owned by Harold K. Wrigley at the present time. Dr. Wrigley is one of the applicants. He has been a longtime owner of this property. It is 38.587 acres by survey. It's located on the western side of Route 19. It has a very unusual zoning in that it actually has 3 zoning districts in it. It is a mixed-use district as its fundamental underlying zoning district. It has the Access Management and Design Overlay District on top of that. And it also is a PRD overlay. Now that raises an interesting question because you repealed the substantive provisions of your ordinance in 2016 to take PRDs and the standards for PRDs out of the ordinance. So it's interesting as to why the map still shows a PRD overlay. I could probably write a paper on all the legal nuances that could be created by that, but it's currently vacant land. Multifamily dwellings are permitted use in the mixed-use district. Townhouses are a type of multifamily dwelling under your ordinance. The proposed development that we have is for 124 townhouses. This is the conceptual plan for that. They are front-loaded. It's a circular street so that everybody has essentially 2 ways around from their units to get out to the access road. The plan should otherwise be compliant with all of your subdivision and land development requirements. The Planning Commission originally met on this petition for curative amendment on April 8th. I don't think there was any disagreement amongst the Planning Commission members from the very first meeting that the defects that were raised in the ordinance were in fact defective. They were either excessive standards or standards that were just impossible for somebody to meet and expect that you're actually going to build a townhouse development. The main issue that would seem to be about, or seemed to be the discussion of the Planning Commission, was the limitation on density. Ultimately, the Planning Commission voted 3-1 to a modified version of the proposed curative amendment that placed a limit of 4 dwelling units per acre or per gross acre on the site. That revised amendment was in fact provided to the Planning Commission following that meeting as Exhibit 3. The Planning Commission met again on April 29th, and they revised their recommendation to reduce the lot size, but to also reduce the density to 3 units per gross acre. The Planning Commission again reviewed this request following the remand from the court on September 9th and September 30th, and again recommended adoption of the proposed curative amendment, at this time with a density of 4 units per gross acre. This Board of Supervisors, I think one member may have changed in the interim, but this Board of Supervisors held a public hearing on May 12th. On May 27th, the supervisors voted to approve the curative amendment, and on June 16th passed Resolution 2025-09, which implemented the amendment to the zoning ordinance with a density in there of 3.25. I'm going to stop for a little bit. I'm going to let Mr. Arbach here talk a little bit about some of the specifics of the plan.
Sir, can I get your full name?
It's Dylan Albeck, Audebck. My name is Dylan Albeck. I'm with Sheffield Company. We're the engineering consultant on the project. Just to reiterate a few things that Don said. This is the property here. It's just on Route 19, just south of the Log Cabin Inn. The total property is just over 38.5 acres. And a few colors on this exhibit here are the environmentally sensitive areas. That's going to be streams, floodplains, steep slopes. There's an existing sanitary easement on the property. And it's because of those reasons that we are asking for a slightly more compact development. Which again, this is the conceptual plan here. It's 124 units. There's a single access point off of Route 19. And it's because of this, there was a traffic study done, it was submitted to PennDOT, it came back with no comments. There will also be sidewalks throughout the development, so it will be a walkable community. And there are a few other items that we are aware of and are considering. First of those being the impact of the development plan, the preservation of agricultural land. The site is not currently used for agriculture, nor is it an agricultural security program. The site conditions, slopes, soils, floodplains make the site unusable for agriculture. The proposed plan is compact and limits the disturbance of environmentally sensitive areas. We protect streams, wetlands, floodways, floodplains. The soils and proposed grading operations of the project, a geotechnical study has been completed and has been submitted with the land development application to the township. And there will be no adverse environmental impacts due to the increased impervious area. There's 2 stormwater management detention basins that will be used to control any increase from the impervious area and runoff that will discharge into an existing stream in the rear of the property. And we have also applied and obtained an NPDES permit from Butler County Conservation District. And the second area of concern would be infrastructure. Water and sewer facilities are already on the property, which was facilitated by easements provided by the property owner. And other utilities are readily available. And we have obtained the will serve letters from People's Gas, Penn Power, Armstrong, and PA American Water and WPCA for sanitary service. And it's because of these reasons that we do believe that this plan not only considers the environmentally sensitive areas, it will have no adverse impact on the environment, and we think this would be a good housing option for Lancaster Township. And with that, I'll turn it back over to.
Can you just pull up the exhibit on the limits of disturbance?
Yes. This exhibit here shows our limit of disturbance. It's kind of hard to see with this area in blue here. In this red line is the old Dominion plan. The old Dominion plan had a disturbance acreage of 21.37 acres, and our current proposed plan is at 19.6, so we do decrease the limits of disturbance from that plan.
And could you also show a plan, or show the plan that had the maximum density? If you ignored the.
That would be this one here. There would be a total of 216 units. 25-foot front yard setback is with this as well. We would have deeper rear yards. And this again, this is developed without regard to environmentally sensitive impact, so it would impact wetlands and things like that. And there will be development floodplain and quite a bit more steep slope impact as well.
Okay. And I know it's a smaller scale, but did you have a plan that showed what the Old Dominion?
Yes.
So this is in your book as exhibit 11. And it shows the Old Dominion site plan that was previously approved on this property. And this is just to show you that, you know, if you develop this non-residentially, you obviously get a fairly significant commercial facility. In that case, it was a truck terminal with greater disturbance and impacts to the environmentally sensitive areas than this residential development. Any questions of Mr. Arbeck before I bring my next witness up? Okay. I'll call John Trant. State your name for the record.
Sure, I'm John Trant, President and CEO of Strategic Solutions.
And Mr. Trant, can you give us your educational background?
Sure, I have a law degree from Duquesne University and degrees in landscape architecture and geography from Penn State University.
And are you a planning consultant in addition to being those other things?
Yes, I'm an attorney, a certified community planner, and a certified zoning officer.
And were you asked to review the ordinance here in Lancaster Township?
Yes.
And to render an opinion about whether there were any defects in the ordinance?
Yes.
And can you tell the board what that opinion was?
Sure, the board, I believe, has been provided a copy of a memo that summarizes my review of the ordinance and its impacts on the proposed development plan. I'll just walk through that memo and give some highlights, and if the board has any questions, we can. On page 2 of the memo, there's an overview of the subject property. All that information has already been entered into the record. Just wanted to begin by pointing out that this property is zoned mixed use and also has an access and design overlay on it. There are also 2 prior development approvals, one in 2006 for Lancaster Village Shops, which was 113 residential units. And in 2023, as was just mentioned, the approval for the Old Dominion Freight Line project, which included 146 dedicated parking spaces and 800 estimated truck trips in and out of the proposed development. Figure 1 is an aerial photo with an outline of the subject property along Route 19. And figure 2 shows the portion of the zoning map that covers this parcel, which shows the mixed-use based zoning district and the corridor access and design overlay in a hatch pattern overlaying that piece of property that's outlined in red, which is the subject property.
Is the red also the PRD overlay?
Yes. Important to analysis of the zoning ordinance provisions that apply are the community development objectives from the township's zoning ordinance. Specifically, objective C1 reads that a development consideration is to provide a balance of residential and non-residential uses consistent with local and regional development patterns. As we know and see new development happening up the Route 19 and 79 corridors, certainly continued development up those corridors and through Lancaster Township is consistent with that community development objective that's articulated in the township's own zoning ordinance. Also important is the purpose of that mixed-use zoning district, the base zoning district that applies to this property. And that purpose is to provide development potential for a variety of commercial, residential, office, service, and light industrial and manufacturing uses with appropriate buffers. This district should apply parking, design, landscaping, screening, and access management standards to help control the easy flow of traffic and encourage safety. That's the Township Zoning Ordinance Act Section 300-20. There are 3 specific defects that are at issue with the current ordinance. Defect number 1 is at Section 300-20E10, where there's a requirement of a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet for townhomes. Frankly, I suspect that that is a typo that was carried forward throughout various versions of the township zoning ordinance. A lot size for a townhouse of that size would really be impractical in terms of a lot layout. To require 20,000 square feet for a townhouse minimum lot size will result in very narrow and very, very long parcels. Second defect is the side yard. It's physically impossible to have side yards on townhouse lots because those lot lines are drawn down the shared common wall between townhouse units. And the lot line on the side abuts one after the other. Those units and those lots immediately abut each other. So there is no ability to get a 15-foot setback in the side yard for townhouse lots. Also probably a typo or an oversight. The intent was likely at the end of the townhouse building of multiple units, the side lot setback would be 15 feet on either side of that building for those end lots, those end townhouse lots. Similarly, section 320E10, sorry, 300-20E10 requires a minimum front yard setback of 40 feet, which most townhouse lots are front loaded. The township's ordinance doesn't require or provide for anything otherwise. So as proposed in this development, as in any development likely to happen in the township with townhouses, these would be front loaded lots. Because townhouses by nature are narrower, majority of the front yard would be taken up by driveway. Extension of a 40-foot setback would do nothing more than extend the paving for a driveway to get to the front garage, the front loaded garage for that townhouse unit, as well as extending the lateral connections for the various utilities that are running along the street. Section 300-23 is the overlay district, the access, management, and design overlay district of the township zoning ordinance. The purpose of the district is to promote thoughtful, well-regulated development that ensures safe and efficient traffic flow along State Route 19. It encourages the creation of access roads, reduction in the number and spacing of curb cuts, and shared entry points, as well as uniform signage standards and appropriate screening of developments. The proposed development, as was just provided an overview to the board, includes a left turn lane as a single access point from Route 19 into the site, which supports the purpose of the overlay district, as I just outlined, in terms of controlling and managing access points to Route 19. Should the number of units be lowered as a result of application of some of the current zoning provisions, that could result in a drop of traffic trips that are generated by the development and result in loss of the dedicated left turn lane into the site, which would not further the purpose of the overlay district as currently proposed. On April 30th, 2025, the Planning Commission made a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors recommending the defects in the current ordinance be fixed as outlined above in my memo. However, the condition was added by the Planning Commission for a maximum density of 3 units per acre. We took a look at some surrounding municipalities and their maximum density for townhomes from communities throughout the region in Beaver, Butler, and Lawrence counties. Those densities ranged from maximum densities for townhouses of 16 units per acre, over 7 units per acre. One nearby township of Jackson Township allows townhouses through the planned residential development option with no maximum density for townhouses. Another township allows them at 18 units per acre, and Zelienople Borough is 8 units per acre. In reviewing those defects, we've recommended a couple of fixes looking at the current language of the ordinance. Section 300-20E10 would need to be amended to address what I said is likely a typo issue in terms of the minimum lot area for duplex and townhouse to go from 20,000 square feet to be changed to 2,000 square feet, which would be a more appropriate and common minimum lot size for townhouses. Also in that section is the minimum side yard requirement. It's currently set at 15 feet. That can stay, and the defect can be fixed by simply adding some language to allow for 0-foot side yard setback for party wall lot lines in townhouse developments. So overall, we reviewed the existing ordinance, identified and agreed with those 3 defects, and outlined those 3 potential fixes for those defects. And then also in terms of the density, recommending that a maximum density is further considered at a 5 or 6 per acre rather than the current proposed 4.
Mr. Tranter, the opinions you've given today give a reasonable degree of planning certainty.
Yes.
Does the board have any questions of Mr. Trant?
No.
So part of the review of the proposed curative amendment, when the plan proposed with the curative amendment involves housing, some analysis of the housing type and the need for the housing type. So we first started by looking at your comprehensive plan. As Mr. Tran pointed out, it encourages a range of housing opportunities. Currently, this township has no townhouses either under construction or planned for the township. One of the other goals in the comprehensive plan is the preservation of open space. The plan that's presented here will end up with 25.73 of the 38.58 acres in open space, or about 66.7% of the site will be open space. It proposes that development should be directed towards existing communities. This is in close proximity to Arden and Scenic Bridge, 2 communities that have townhouses and also have quadplexes, duplexes, have a range of multifamily attached products. It's also it's also along an arterial road, so from a traffic perspective, residents will be using roads with capacity, the arterial road that runs through the township. There are no sewer water extensions that are required because the sewer and water are both on the property. And as I pointed out in the past, and will point out again, both of those are there at the courtesy of the current landowner, Mr. Wrigley, Dr. Wrigley, who gave those easements to the Western Butler County Authority and Pennsylvania American so that there could be water service in this part of the township and sewer service in this part of the township. The comprehensive plan also recommended reinstatement of the planned residential development provisions. Certainly this plan has characteristics similar to a PRD. It has a very compact footprint relative to the site, and it has a large amount of open space, 2 things that are typically encouraged in a PRD. Comprehensive plan recommends multifamily homes be analyzed based upon the experiences with Arden Woods and Scenic Bridge. I think that the overall feeling of the residents who live in those areas is that they're very pleased with the community that they live in and the way that it's been developed, and is a good place to live. It also, the comprehensive plan recommended expanding the R2 medium density residential and R3 high density residential district. So it was encouraging the areas in which multifamily could occur would be in a larger portion of the township than currently allowed in the zoning ordinance. All of those things point to the fact that the comprehensive plan has acknowledged a need to create the opportunity for multifamily development here in the township. With respect to market conditions, Scenic Bridge and Arden absorbed very quickly, showing the need in the township for these type of products. Arden is completely sold out. In 2020, in the height of COVID, it sold 80 lots, or developed 80 lots. In 2023, another 80 lots. And in 2024, 62 lots. Townhouses are often a common starter home, as they are price competitive. I know we may have disagreement about that point, but that is certainly something that the marketplace would generally say that's who uses townhouses. Although lately, townhouses have also become increasingly a place for step down. People that have their children that have moved out of the house and don't want the obligation to maintain yards and everything that goes with owning a house have used townhouses as a means of downsizing. So we think all of those things indicate that there's a very healthy demand and market for this type of product. As further evidence of the de facto nature of the exclusionary provisions in your ordinance, since the zoning amendment was passed in 2016 that removed PRD and increased the lot sizes for townhouses and multifamily, there have been exactly 0 plans submitted to the township for development. And there have been no units built outside of the plans that were approved prior to that time. This is despite the fact that plans that were approved prior to that time were highly successful in terms of their marketing and sales-based activity. I also, as I showed on the one exhibit where we developed a compliant plan with a 20,000 square foot lot. Obviously, we couldn't have a compliant plan with the side yard setbacks because that's impossible. I think everybody realizes. But if you do that, you end up with a density of less than 1 unit per acre. There is no one that's going to develop a multifamily project or a townhouse project with a density of 1 unit per acre. It defeats the purpose of having a multifamily development. In conclusion, we've raised 3 defects to the ordinance. The Planning Commission has acknowledged those defects as evidenced by their recommendations. Even the dissenting vote at the Planning Commission acknowledged that he wasn't disputing the defects in the ordinance, just the density calculation. We provided the expert opinion of Mr. Trant, and the facts of no activity is probably the best evidence that you're excluding issues, because it's certainly occurring in the communities around here. Thus far, there's been no evidence to refute any of those defects presented by any objector or any staff or consultants that you've hired. And we believe that we've proposed a plan that addresses the problems, but limits the density to 4 units per acre. It protects the environmentally sensitive features on the property, and it allows for a single access point on Route 19 as the overlay district for the access and management district requires. So with that, we request that the exhibits that I've offered be put into evidence, and that the board grant the curative amendment that we proposed.
Thank you. Mr. Graham, at this time, I'm going to summarize the township's exhibits and offer those as evidence. And at one point, we may have additional questions for you, either from the board or from the township engineer, or for you or your expert and for your client. Thanks. Okay, zoning officer was unavailable to attend this evening. However, she did prepare a detailed correspondence that I am going to read into the record. It is dated October 20th, directed to the Board of Supervisors from Ms. Sylvia Wack. I am unable to attend the public hearing scheduled for this evening, but I offer the following comments. Number 1, the following exhibits will be submitted. Notice of public hearing. The public hearing was advertised in the Butler Eagle on October 2nd of 25 and October 9th of 2025. Additionally, the notice of public hearing was posted on 400 Perry Highway, parcel 200-4F100-A17-00040 on October 7th, 2025, and sent to all property owners of record within 200 feet of parcel 200-4F100-A17-0000 by regular mail on October 2, 2025. That would be, this is going to be offered as collected exhibit A, the report from Ms. Wack, and attached are 7 exhibits which are incorporated in part of collected exhibit A. Number 2 is a listing of notified property owners attached to the application for curative amendment. Number 3 is the Butler Eagle proof of publication. Number 4 is the letter from Dave Carlson outlining the Lancaster Township Planning Commission recommended approval of the application for curative amendment at their September 30, 2025 meeting. Number 5 is the Butler County Planning Commission review letter dated August 27, 2025. 6 is the Lancaster Township Chapter 300 zoning ordinance, Section 300-20 mixed-use zoning district, including both the Table 601 and the zoning map. And lastly, number 7 is the Gannett Plumbing Engineering Review Letter dated April 2nd, 2025. Ms. Wack has no questions for the applicant. The zoning requirements in this case, of the case in question are mixed use and access management and design overlay. She then recites section 300-20A and section 300-9. So 300 attachment 1 and table 01. A multifamily dwelling is a permitted use in the mixed use zoning district. For structures that have party walls, the existing zoning ordinance side yard setback of 15 feet is not practical. She then sets forth a table showing all of the current requirements of the zoning ordinance along with the applicant's requested changes, which she highlights. And she submits it to Sylvia Wack, zoning officer. So I would like to offer collected exhibit A with the exhibits 1 through 7 attached into the record. Also to be offered are Exhibit B, which is an order of court from Judge Strive in the case of Meyer versus Lancaster Township Board of Supervisors and Wrigley 19 LLC and Carol Wrigley, remanding the matter back to the supervisors to hold a public hearing pursuant to public notice, and that was dated July 30, 2025, and that is Exhibit B of the Township. Exhibit C is a revised proposed curative amendment limiting the density, clarifying the density to being 3.25 units per acre based upon the gross acreage of the site being developed. And that proposed curative amendment or possible curative amendment was sent to the Butler County Planning Department. And Exhibit D is the Butler County Review Report dated 10/14/2025 with comments indicating there was no objection to the curative amendment, but some suggestions in regard to cleaning up other areas of the zoning ordinance to be consistent. So I'd like to offer A through D to the record. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any comments and or additions from the township engineer.
At this point, I don't have any other additions or comments to make.
Mr. Thompson, do you have any questions of the applicant or any other issues you'd like to address?
I do not.
Board of Supervisors, I know Mr. Graham asked if you had any questions, but I just wanted to make sure to see if you had any questions of the applicant.
I do not.
At this time, the public is permitted to come up one at a time pursuant to, do we have a sign-in for this or no?
No, we don't.
That's fine, okay. Okay, if you were sworn in and you stood up, you can come up one at a time, state your name and address for the record. You have your 5 minutes. So how do you want to take it? Why don't we take it row by row? See anyone in the first row?
Anybody in the first row? Second row. Third row.
Am I allowed to be sworn in? I did not think I was gonna speak.
I think so. I don't have an objection to that. Do you mind?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your name, please.
Tim McNulty.
Are we on the third row? Was there anyone in the second row?
Go ahead, Tim. There's nobody in the second row. I'll go first.
I guess my only input.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Bless you.
I just have a small input in the matter. We have,
Small input in the matter would be if this would be adopted, okay? To give some area that's not being used in the development for some green space that would be targeted for a nice area for the kids. It might be a starter home, but there might be people that are gonna have 4, 5, 6, 8, 10-year-old kids, we don't know. A nice space, not designated, whether call it playground or whatever. I know there's a lot of legal fees there, but I guess all I'm saying is a nice place for some kids to go around, go out, and roll in some soft grass and be kids. Whether it's wiffle ball or only bats, soft bats and soft balls, foam balls, a place for any kids that would be in this development to be kids, and that is needed. So that's my only comment.
Your name, sir?
My name is Tom Page, 661 Scott Ridge Road, and I'm speaking in opposition to the Curative Amendment. I like the time to address all the issues wrong with the proposal, from the irrelevant to the half-truths to the ridiculous. I won't say that the person who wrote this is the dumbest person on the planet, but I think they better hope the dumbest person doesn't die. Due to my time limitation, I will focus on item 10 in the proposal, the original proposal that I saw. A 40-foot setback for townhouses is not a reasonable restriction. Define reasonable, a very subjective word. Let me begin with some personal thoughts and examples of reasonable and reasonableness. This is my favorite compass. I used to have had this compass for more than 30 years, and it doesn't always point north. Most people would think that's a bad thing. However, when I suspect it stopped pointing north, it makes me stop, makes me look around, makes me listen, makes me think. It requires me to seek the correct path forward. Not the easiest path, not the path of least resistance, but the correct path. Doing the right thing, regardless of the difficulty. Following the true and correct path for myself, for those depending on me, and for the community at large. It's the moral thing to do. It's my moral compass. Everyone should have a moral compass. Do you have a moral compass? Now let's talk about reasonable. Reasonable is a very subjective term. Where it is written that the petition gets to define what is and is not reasonable for the community standard. Let me give some examples. Suppose I'm driving 70 miles an hour on I-79, going north from Little Creek Road to 488. Normally, this would be considered reasonable. It's within the posted speed limit, lawful, enforceable with penalties, so much like ordinances, which are also lawful and enforceable with penalties. And these are not at least partially based on expectations and the establishment of community standards. However, if I were to go to Route 19, Perry Highway, at 70 miles an hour past Log Cabin Inn, though it is possible, it would not be reasonable because it would violate posted speed limits. I'm sure our police would find that unnecessary. It would also violate posted speed limits, which are enforceable, much like ordinances. Why are these laws and ordinances in place? Let's face it, I-79 and Perry Highway both go in the same direction. They parallel each other. So why not the same rules? Could it be safety? Could it be community standards? Could it be reasonableness? There's that word again. In the past, this petitioner was denied a variance to deviate from these community standards because it did not meet these community standards. Yes, it was deemed inappropriate and in conflict with the community standard. So now the petitioner is essentially saying, as an analogy to driving north through Lancaster Township, well, if I can't go 70 miles an hour in front of Log Cabin Inn, I claim and declare the established community standard is not reasonable. And I demand through curative amendment that you allow me to go 70 miles an hour anywhere on Route 19 that has a similar ordinance. A curative amendment is not a proper remedy for the denial of a variance. And I think the petitioner and his legal counsel should already know this and are just trying to bully the township with a threat of a lawsuit to get their way. As an unintended consequences, we have another developer saying in a previous meeting they are waiting for a curative amendment to be approved so they can also go 70 miles an hour on Perry Highway. It is not the responsibility or the obligation of the township to change well-established and reasonable, that word again, community standard because the developer will not be able to turn large enough profit on their project. Jackson Township, Cranberry Township, which they mentioned, may allow this. Look at the mess that they have created. So go buy land there and cram your developments in that area, not here. As a child, I recall being told that if my neighbor jumps off a cliff, it's not a good reason for me to do so. If Jackson Township and Cranberry Township change their ordinances to permit this, doesn't mean we should do so.
I'm sorry,
Let's-
sir, but your 5 minutes. was
Well,
up.
I've got one paragraph to go, so we'll finish. Less than 260 homes were built in the last 4 years. These two developments will be 140% growth than the last 4 years combined. The unintended consequences of this curative amendment could easily take another hour to discuss. It is time for you to find your moral compass. Stop, look, listen, think, and do what is right to protect and preserve our community standard. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else in the third row? Yes, sir.
My name is Mark Calhoun, and I live on Stockbridge, and I guess 20-plus year resident of this area. I came from an area that was overdeveloped, that was beautiful farmland, and I've sat in these meetings multiple times. Developers are interested in developing. They do their thing, they make their money, they move out. I've seen the lawyers come, I've seen the Escalades pull up, the fancy briefcases, the suits, but the people that have to live with it when it's done are the residents. I think there's two groups in here, residents and non-residents. And subsequently, I heard all different levels of acceptability of density of townhomes. I'm just asking that the board would go with the recommendations of Butler County that you recommended to them. It's unfortunate that the developer can't pack more homes in to make more money. But I personally am not in favor of, as you can tell, of townhomes, as you can see what's going on Yellow Creek. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, not that great. But that has nothing to do with the law. It has nothing to do with what the developer can do. He has a right to build townhomes. But we have these ordinances to control that, to slow it down, to let it not get out of control. So that in the end, you'll be stuck with a situation like where I moved from with Plum Borough, where the only answer is stop signs and no money left to do anything, and congestion, and just really a horrible situation. So I'm just asking you to just go with what the county says and to go with your gut as a resident of this community. Thanks.
Thank you. Sir, could you spell? Last name is spelled.
Calhoun, C-A-L-H-O-U-N.
Anybody in the fourth row? Fifth row?
John Meyer, 335 Camp Run Road, Harmon, PA. First thing I have to comment on is, has anybody even contacted our local fire department as to the access to all this? One entrance to this, with this many homes, we'd have an issue. I don't think our fire department would be able to get in or get out. I think there needs to be an emergency entrance or some access for our local fire department, and a second exit in case there's, disaster. What is the street right away? What is the width of the street right away?
This is 24 foot.
50 foot right away.
50 foot right away. Well, Dawn, I hate to disagree with your comment earlier. You stated that if a 22-foot vehicle was parked in the driveway, that he would not be up in the right of way. But with a 25-foot setback, he would definitely be in the right of way.
The 25-foot setback starts at the edge of the right of way. So it's 25 feet from the edge of the right of way to the house.
So it's 50 feet from the center of the street to the front of the house, is what you're saying.
Well, math's a little different. You said
No.
26 foot? 24 foot cartway, so it's 12
50
feet.
foot right of way.
12 feet plus another 13 feet, right? So you get your 25 plus 95, so it'll be 50 from the center.
Okay, 50 feet from the center line of the road to the front of the house. I just wanted to clarify that, because if you put a vehicle 19 or 22 feet in front of a house, in the sidewalk, you're gonna be blocked. Nobody's gonna park smack up against the garage door. You're gonna be in the sidewalk right away. I suggest you folks consider extending it, the setback, so that if a vehicle's in the driveway, it's not blocking the sidewalk. People wouldn't have to walk out onto the street to get around that vehicle. I mean, it's just a safety concern. Now, the other thing, the Route 19 Corridor Committee, we just had them present their plan for the Route 19 corridor. And they suggested they wanted to try to keep Lancaster Township rural. I don't think these townhouses jammed in meet with that plan of your committee, which recommended that to your township, which is the residents. Second, your zoning hearing board turned these people down for this 25-foot setback. The other thing is, why do we have to jam all this into this little piece of ground when they own 30-some acres? I don't see why. All the other plans that came through were using more of the acreage. And I don't understand why, and I would like to know, or at least the Board of Supervisors put a restriction on what can be done with the balance of the property. Not that they come back here 2 more years from now and want to shove another 100 and some units down our throat on the balance of the property. I think you need to consider a lot of that. Please, the residents here that are here don't want these townhomes.
Thank you, John. Anybody else in the fifth row?
Good evening. My name is Pat Sterling, and I live at 121 Red Brush Trail. And I'm not going to talk about building. I'm going to talk about something that I read in the last week that has to do with taxes, and I wanted to share it with you. The writer's name was Philip Corey. He's a real estate broker. And I'm simply going to read his information. It was printed on Facebook, so I have to assume that it is for public consumption. He says a 3.5% increase sounds small when you say it once, but the school district isn't raising taxes once. It's proposing a multi-year compounding increase. Over 5 to 6 years, those small bumps snowball into roughly 23 to 25% in annual taxes by the end of the project. For the owner of a $300,000 home, that's about 600 to 700 more every single year once the project is fully phased in. The new rate doesn't roll back, it becomes a new baseline forever. And because Butler County does not reassess, this isn't tied to your home's market value at all. The county doesn't reset assessments upward or downward. The only lever is the millage rate. So every time the millage goes up, your bill increases permanently. The inflation limited label used isn't accurate when the tax base itself never adjusts back down. Proponents have claimed that home values are rising at 4.7 to 8% a year, which just isn't supported by the data. Butler County's long-term appreciation rate is right around 3% annually over the past 3 years, verified through MLS and state trend data and my expertise, Mr. Corey. That's steady, but not enough to outpace compounding tax increases of 3.5 to 4% a year. Over time, the tax growth catches the appreciation growth, which means owners aren't actually gaining net equity from value growth, which means, let me read that again. Over time, the tax growth catches the appreciation growth, which means owners aren't actually gaining net equity from value appreciation once higher taxes and carrying costs are factored in. I have already said to my husband, should we be thinking about moving? The bigger issue is transparency. Homeowners deserve a full amortization of this debt, total borrowing, total interest, and how those payments step up year by year. Without that, phrases like manageable long-term costs are just talking points. Everyone wants strong schools, but this conversation deserves real math, not PR slides. The cost of good education should be understood clearly, not hidden behind optimistic projections and best-case assumptions. There are many people in our community who live on fixed incomes. Before we sign off on long-term commitments like this, let's take a clear-eyed look at all the facts for their sakes too. He ends it with smart growth requires honest math. If anyone would like to have a copy of this, I'd be glad to take your name and get a copy. There are several articles, all of them equally informative. Thank you.
Hey, that's the fifth row. Sixth row.
Connie Donhoff, 105 Community Center Road.
Ma'am, could I have,
DONHOFF. I wanted to, first comment I'm gonna make is in regards to a comment from the engineer. I'm sorry, I didn't remember your name. He stated that the property is unusable for agriculture, when in fact it was used for agriculture at one time, decades ago, but it was used. But I wanted to point that out. So approving the curative amendment will drastically change the landscape along the Route 19 corridor in the township. The supervisors must deny it. The developer is using this as a negotiation tactic to get what they want. They had a chance to appeal the variance request that was denied on January 30th of this year to the Court of Common Pleas, but they chose not to do so. They have chosen the curative amendment route, which tells me that they are fully aware of how this could lead to other changes along the Route 19 corridor in the developer's favor to meet the means that the developer is looking to either purchase or work with other landowners along the corridor for more residential development, which this has already been stated by another developer looking at another property along the road. Safety is a huge issue and must be addressed during this decision-making process, not only for the request, but any possible future zoning changes that could come before the supervisors. One major factor is the single ingress-egress for the proposed 144 townhomes. The location of this ingress-egress at 19 is dangerous, even if the right-hand and left-hand turn lanes are added. Remember, the township is has permitted traffic to drastically increase along the Route 19 corridor from Southview Drive south to Jackson Township line. Now, on a side note, when Old Dominion was approved, the traffic coming in and out of there for Old Dominion is going to be less than half of what it would be with this 124 townhouses. Something that only a few may have considered in this addition is additional flooding to this development would be caused downstream along Scholars Run and Connoquenessing Creek in going into Harmony, Zillionople, Farmville, and Franklin Township areas. By the way, these stormwater management stuff that's been going on in the township absolutely does not work, has not worked from day one. And I can almost guarantee what they have planned will not work as well. What else is there? The developer must build with what works or fits on the property, while meeting the current township ordinances without any variances that would pad the pockets of the developers. That includes with the terrain, not filling in ravines and everything else like they've done with Scenic Ridge and Orange Woods. The township must be proactive to protect the current residents and not worry about the developer profit. Will there be more property damage issues like there have been and currently still going on from Scenic Ridge and Orange Woods? Does the township have a plan on how they will protect the neighboring properties from any kind of property damages caused by the developer during the construction and any problems that will arise down the road? I would hate to see the same thing happen to these residents that has happened to the many residents that have been dealing with ongoing damages from Scenic Ridge and Orange Woods. More residential, retail, and restaurant development equals more township and school expenses. The taxes from a developer will not be enough to cover the additional expenses caused by it. How is the township going to cover all these increased expenses without raising our taxes? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the fifth row? Sixth row? I'm doing the track rows. Anybody else in the back that wants to speak? Go ahead, sir.
I haven't been sworn in either.
Please swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yep,
And your full name, please.
Jonathan D. Gardner.
Last name?
Jonathan D. Gardner.
Gardner. Thank you.
Some years ago, when they were taking the census, the person that came to my house, I sat down and talked with him, and he was out of work at the time. He was a developer. And I said to him, "Why do you keep building these shopping plazas?" Plain and simple, for the money. I agree with this gentleman right here. They're gonna come and they're gonna create an upper Cranberry here, which we don't need. And also, the more you pave, the less the water soaks in. And we're gonna turn this place into another Cranberry, another rat race. That's exactly what Cranberry is. I grew up starting in Ingomar, PA, and we moved the farm to Wexford. Here comes the housing development. Same thing, turn Wexford into a rat race. Then they moved from Wexford up to Cranberry. Same thing. Traffic, a mess, the whole 9 yards. They come in, they develop, they make the money. See you later, fellas, you're stuck with a mess. And we're heading right towards what's going on in Cranberry right now. Leave it rural, best you can, leave it rural. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else for comment on the review?
Okay. Just wanted to let everyone know the timeline. So the township's code of ordinances requires that the Board of Supervisors issue findings of fact and conclusions of law within 15 days of this hearing. And that will ultimately be their decision. So you'll see on the agenda, there's a motion to advertise for a special meeting on Monday the 3rd, which is right within that 15 days. It's a very aggressive timeline. I think the municipality's planning code says 45. But within 15 days, there will be a decision issued. It will be issued at that special meeting on November 3rd. So I wanted everyone to know the timeline. And at this time, I would motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the Wrigley LLC public curative amendment hearing.
I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. So at this time, I'd like to call to order the October 20th, 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll start that out with public comment. Oh, I'm sorry.
Am I?
You're lovely, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. I was doing it great. How long? What time's the meeting on the 3rd? 6?
How are you? Good to see you.
Because he had that little house, and was sitting there, that I'm like, I mean, do what you want. But that's it, because I was like, that's
You don't work about it.
They came over and went down, Dad had hooked up some wires. So he did have to turn stuff down here. And I don't think Chad's coming back with the new wire isn't out back yet. We don't need it, so it's harder. But because he was started, he's like, this blue wire is not connected. He's like, so he called him. I guess it's that because he didn't want to connect it and sort it out. Right. I don't know if he didn't connect it. I get it. I like it. Yeah. So, right. Yeah. Right. So we have to understand